I think maybe I should go ahead and follow the directive of Father Peter and just take this and kind of throw it away, because Greg, I can never follow that. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. What I'd like to do first tonight is to introduce my table, and obviously, Greg, thank you for the incredibly kind words. You're a wonderful man at the school. We are graced with the presence of both Greg and Brendan Novinsky. And Greg, for me, epitomizes the Cistercian faculty member. There are so many of us that have so many ties over the years that we grow tremendous strength from all of that. As Greg mentioned, I taught him in middle school, not once but twice. Coached him on my high school football team and was offensive guard and defensive end. He came back later as a young faculty member, tremendous hope, lots of enthusiasm, and thought, wow, this guy is really going to do great things at this school. He was, he is, and he will continue to do great things at the school. And now I just go up and salute him, and I call him boss because he is head of upper school, and as such I report to him as form master. So boss, you did great. We also have Rodney and Libby Walter. They are longtime friends from school. Rodney, of course, was my teacher that I started under and taught under for the first time when I came in from the University of Dallas. He and Libby are more recently our domino competitors. And we go over, and as mentioned, we do like to compete, and we go over more than occasionally to play dominoes. I am honored to follow Rodney because Rodney not only led me and so many people there at the school, and obviously I always called him, he is and always will be to me and to all of us at CPS, the Dean of History. And obviously he is our first honorary alumnus, so we thank Rodney. As Father Peter mentioned, my youngest sister, my baby sister, Teresa Haaser, came down and joined us tonight. She is also a teacher, one who has worked for 24 years at our parochial school, serving Holy Souls Parish in Little Rock, Arkansas. I've been and helped her teach on part of the day for a number of years, and I'm telling you, she has the toughest job because she teaches second grade. And I have tried to teach a little geography and a little history for about an hour to second graders, and I'm telling you, I am wiped out. That's tougher than my whole day. In addition, I did a little ad here, Teresa. She cared for Mom and Dad in their last years, and as far as I'm concerned, she has earned her wings. Finally, I'm happy to report that most of the members of my immediate family are here tonight. Kay and I are very proud of our children and all of the good work that they're doing in their companies and their organizations. So, continuing with the theme of youngest, as I started with my baby sister, I'd like to first introduce Elizabeth Haaser. She flew in specifically this weekend for dear old Dad, and she came in from Tampa, Florida, where she is a senior financial analyst for Coca-Cola Refreshments. So thanks for coming in. I would love for Christy and her husband Felix to be here tonight, but that would have been a little tough because Christy started work beginning of this month in Tokyo, Japan. She took leave of EA Sports in Orlando, Florida, and decided to move there because she was offered a job in the research and development division of a company called Square Enix. They are a big Japanese company which is best known for its role-playing computer games, and that is really her favorite thing in the computer industry. So they are there and working, and they've invited us over, and we're thinking about it. However, Bobby, CPS 91, and wife Stephanie Haaser are, thank goodness, here with us tonight as they live in close proximity to the University of Texas at Dallas. Bobby's been working on his PhD in physics with a specialty in space science. As of last weekend, Bobby successfully defended his dissertation, and I can publicly introduce him to the Cistercian community for the first time as Dr. Robert A. Haaser. Way to go, son. You've way surpassed me. Stephanie is also quite an engineer in her own right, but obviously and most importantly, as most of you know, they are the parents of our beautiful granddaughter, little Sarah. So we're so glad to have Bobby and Stephanie here. Finally, all of you know my wife, Kay. But what you actually need to know is that she is my love and my strength. For without her spirit and her encouragement, her determination and her wise counsel, I would not be standing here before you tonight. So thank you. As I thought about some words tonight, and of course I am going to really try to be brief, but I don't think it'll happen. The theme that kept coming back to me is this, and the theme therefore is going to be the Lord works in strange and mysterious ways. So let's go with that. In late May of 1967, I'd recently turned 18 years old and had just graduated from Little Rock Catholic High School. As I walked the halls of the school with a tear in my eyes after the ceremonies, I recalled the many good times and the incredible relationships I had made over the last 4 years and wished that those things would never cease. What a miracle it would be if something in the future could approach that time in my life, but I knew that was not going to happen because I was sure that there was one thing that I would never do, and that would be I would never be a teacher in an academic environment. So I went off into the world, and what awaited me was a new 4-year experience at a rather young Catholic university in the Dallas area. I was comfortable at my home in Little Rock. I was a genuine born and raised Arkansan. Being a big sports fan, as Tom knows, and experiencing the Texas-based rivalries of the old Southwest Conference, I occasionally wondered why I decided to immigrate to a foreign country like Texas. But I assumed 4 years could be managed. And so things went for much of those first 2 years at the University of Dallas. But major changes came along during the spring of my second year as an RA and UD baseball teammate by the name of is a guy that some of you older gentlemen know. His name was Jimmy McCluskey. He talked me into a meeting with a new young headmaster, one Father Dennis Farkashvalby, about a part-time job. And he said, "You've got to go." And I said, "No." And we did this about 8 or 10 times. And finally, he badgered me so much, I finally gave in. I said, if I'll give in, I'll do this and he'll leave me alone. After several telephone calls to various people at UD, Father Dennis held a short meeting with me. I was a 19-year-old young man who was, at the time, rather confident in his athletic abilities. And he offered me a part-time job as head coach, and by the way, the only coach, of middle school football, and an assistant coaching position with a newly formed varsity football team. I accepted on his handshake and basically returned to Cistercian on 15 August 1969. I was 20 years and almost 3 months old to do just a little work for the Cistercians. Little did I know that this part-time job would blossom into a 40-plus year career. Father Dennis opened a 15-year period in my life that I just must call the coaching phase, where I was blessed with the opportunity to work with boys in forms 1 through 8 in PE classes, and also during each of the 3 sports seasons in football, basketball, and track. In reality, I had begun living my dream, which was articulated with several other UD friends during my senior year. Late one night, when you're figuring out all the problems of the world, when we were in the dorm, and we were speculating about our futures. And I concluded there with my buddies, when we were all talking about what is it that we want to do, that if I could just help a young boy build himself physically, socially, spiritually, and academically into a strong young man, I would have lived a fulfilling life. During those initial years, I worked with many excellent coaches who became really good friends and or valued teachers of sports strategy and psychology. Men like Coombs and Cahill, Bulger and Hillary, Patrizzi and Klassen, Cooper and DeLong. Indeed, Cistercian prepared a number of young men in that first decade of the school's existence to continue their education and their love of sports at the next level. Really talented athletes like Tom Lewis, Kevin Coyle, three Smith brothers, Buck, Jimmy, Peter, Joe Nicholson, Jim Hartnett, Wade Andrus, David Monick, Todd Moore, and Mark Talkington. Father Dennis was always a sounding board for me in those early years, as we had numerous formal and informal meetings about the development of young men, the role of sports, my strengths and my weaknesses in the program, the growth of the school, and my possible place in those plans. And he always ended by stressing the need for my continued education and an acquisition of an advanced degree for my future career. He was, as always, was right. Father was also a mentor in my personal life, discussing vocational pathways and later the joys of marriage planning and the growth of family with the addition of each new baby. However, the next Cistercian headmaster posed a question one day which changed the course of my career at CPS. Father Bernard called me into his office and stated that the form master rotation had a gap in the upcoming year. And he would like to offer me that job along with additional teaching responsibilities. Well, obviously I needed to confer with the boss. So I went home and talked to my wife, and I decided that I really could not turn down this singular opportunity to work in this European job found nowhere else in the United States of America. So in 1984, I stepped onto a new pathway on my life's journey, form mastering ultimately the CPS classes of 1992, 2006, and presently 2014. In the interim, I was also blessed to assist two veteran form masters with some of their final shepherding duties, and they were Fathers Henry and Julius. What a satisfying but a difficult job. I brought to the task everything I had learned in education over the course of my bachelor's and my master's work, plus the lessons, the techniques, and the psychology acquired on fields and courts and tracks during my athletic past. Being a family man, I also tried to apply parenting skills to smooth the daily routine and address the peaks and the valleys found in the 8-year Cistercian program of helping a little boy develop into a solid young man. But being only human, and like every parent ultimately learns, life is bigger than you are. And the job you would hope to complete in a perfect manner seldom, if ever, works that way. At that point, I looked for answers, and I needed help, both divine and human. So I learned a new value in prayer and quickly asked veteran form masters like Fathers Dennis, Rock, Bernard, and Peter for advice to help with the daily problems that seemed to arise for a form master. Then, as with raising my children, I threw myself into the duties and the responsibilities of my work. Again, as with all of my children, I love all three of those forms equally. Whether they be my oldest sons, class of '92, Mark Peterman, my middle sons, that whole group of the class of 2006 back there, or my baby sons, who are the class of 2014. Whether they received the strength, the inexperience, and the patience, if I ever had any, of my youth, or the more experienced but the tired and occasionally impatient approach of my older years, or some combination of these attributes, I do pray that I met and will continue to meet their needs. There was yet another surprise in store for me in my career at Cistercian, as the next new young headmaster, Father Peter, offered to me the position of Director of Admissions. After help was promised by both he and Father Bernard, I quickly accepted the job. I soon grew to very much love this job, as I became what I thought was the face of Cistercian for 14 years. I knew Cistercian had some of the very best boys and families in the Metroplex, and it was now became my privilege and my pleasure to talk to people about the school and all of its programs. I know that I met quite a number of you families here tonight for the first time in the admissions process. In addition, it was always very exciting and a real blessing to be working with a small group of really talented and dedicated faculty on the admissions committee, which would ultimately influence the future of the school. I'd like to conclude my remarks tonight with a thought from Father Abbott's Memorare Mass sermon last week. He stated that when we decide to follow the path outlined by Christ for our life, there is so much more which happens to us than the completion of our work through our efforts. Indeed, he said, Christ working through others actually begins to form and shape our lives, many times without gaining our attention. And at this stage of my life, excuse me, I'm going to do that again. And at this stage of my life, and many times being a bit slow to perceive things, I am only now beginning to understand the pervasive impact of the Cistercian community on me. The stable and the prayerful Cistercian monks, along with the many new young brothers, are very caring and talented faculty, each wave of hard-working and dedicated parents, and the many decades of young men who have grown up at CPS, graduated, and found their place in the world to build their families and their communities in service to their fellow men, strengthen my life, and give me great hope for the future. These last several months, I have found myself periodically wandering around the campus, remembering the many good times experienced at Cistercian over the last 4 decades, and the incredible relationships I have formed during those years. And I realize that the miracle I asked for when I was 18 years old has actually occurred. As the Lord has led me, sometimes confused, and other times resistant, to the right spot. And I can stand here in front of you tonight and say, with all sincerity, I am where I was supposed to be in my life. When Father Peter called me into his office last semester to break the news about this ceremony tonight, I remember responding after a moment to catch my breath, I am happy, honored, and humbled to receive this award. So I stand here tonight in front of you, and I'm telling you, I want each of you to know that I am happy, honored, and humbled to be bound in such a powerful way to all of you here tonight and to the extended Cistercian community. And my last thought is the Lord does work in strange and mysterious ways. Thank you very much. Mercy. Congratulations, Mr. Haaser. You're humbled, honored, and we're all blessed that you've been with us. And I noted, I don't know if anybody else noted, but Bob kept on referring to 40+ years. And Greg was very specific, Bob. We can't get away from the specifics. It's 42 years, Bob. Thank you very much. We're not going to forget that.